Welcome to Sleep Story. Let the soothing cadence of a story weave through your consciousness, lulling your body to rest and your mind to tranquility as you drift into dreams on the wings of imagination.
It so happened that Ming said to Zhang Fei, when Zilong captured Guiyang County earlier, he was required to sign a military order before departing. Today, Yuan wishes to capture Wuling, and must also sign a military order before leading the troops. Zhang Fei then signed the military order, cheerfully took command of 3,000 troops, and set off for Wuling under cover of night. Upon hearing that Zhang Fei was approaching with his troops, Jingo gathered his officers, inspected his weapons and armor, and marched out of the city to meet the enemy. Gongzi, the military advisor, advised, Liu Zhuande is the uncle of the Han Emperor, and his righteousness is known throughout the land. Additionally, Zhang Wenyuan is exceptionally brave and fierce. We should not engage the enemy. It would be better to surrender. Jingo flew into a rage and said, "Do you wish to collude with the enemy and cause an internal rebellion?" He ordered the guards to drag Gongzi out and execute him. The officials all pleaded, executing family members first is unfavorable for the army. Jingo then dismissed Gongzi and led his troops out himself. 20 li from the city, he encountered Zhang Fei. Zhang Fei brandished his spear and shouted at Jingo. Jingo asked his officers, "Who dares to fight?" All were afraid and none dared to step forward. Jingo charged forward on his horse, wielding his sword to meet him. Zhang Fei roared like a thunderclap, causing Jingo to pale with fear. He dared not engage in combat and turned his horse to flee. Zhang Fei led his troops in pursuit, launching a surprise attack. Jingo fled to the city walls, where arrows rained down from above. He looked up in shock and saw Gongzi standing on the city walls, shouting, "You defy the will of heaven and bring about your own downfall. I and the people will surrender to you." Before he could finish speaking, an arrow struck Jingo in the face, causing him to fall from his horse. The soldiers cut off his head and presented it to Zhang Fei. Gongzi emerged from the city to surrender, and Zhang Fei immediately ordered Gongzi to carry the official seals and go to Guiyang to meet Zhuande. Zhuande was overjoyed and appointed Gongzi to replace Jingo in his position. After Zhuande had personally gone to Wuling to pacify the people, he sent a letter to Yuan, informing him that Yuan and Zilong had each captured a county. Yuan then replied in a letter, saying, "I hear that Changsha has not yet been captured. If my elder brother does not consider me unworthy, it would be excellent if Quan could be entrusted with this task." Zhuande was overjoyed and immediately ordered Zhang Fei to rush to Jingzhou to replace Yuan, while Yuan was sent to capture Changsha. Upon arriving, Guanyu paid a visit to Zhuande and Ming. Ming said, "Zilong captured Guiyang and Yuan captured Wuling, both with 3,000 troops. The governor of Changsha, Yuan, is of little consequence. However, he has a prominent general, a native of Nanyang, surnamed Wang, named Zhong, with the courtesy name Hanjiang. He was a commander under Liu Bao and co-governed Changsha with Liu Biao's nephew Yu Pan before serving under Yuan. Though he is nearly 60 years old, he possesses the courage of 10,000 men and must not be underestimated. Yuan, you must bring a large force when you go," Yuan said. "Why does the military advisor boost the enemy's morale and dampen our own? A mere old soldier is nothing to fear. One does not need 3,000 troops. With just 500 of my own swordmen, I will certainly behead Guanzhong and Honjuan and present their heads to you." Zhuandi tried to dissuade him, but Yuan Chong refused to listen and departed with only 500 swordmen. Kongming said to Zhuandi, "Yuan Chong is underestimating Guanzhong. I fear there may be trouble. Your Excellency should go to assist him." Zhuandi agreed and led his troops toward Changsha. Now, it so happened that Honjuan, the governor of Changsha, was a man of impatient temperament who was quick to resort to violence, and everyone despised him. Upon hearing that Guan Yu's army had arrived, he summoned the old general, Guanzhong, to discuss the matter. Guanzhong said, "There is no need for the Lord to worry. With this sword and this bow of mine, 1,000 enemies may come, but 1,000 will fall." It turned out that Guanzhong could draw a bow with a draw weight of 2 stone and never missed a shot. Before he had finished speaking, a man stepped forward from the steps and said, "There is no need for the old general to fight. I will capture Guan Yu alive with my own hands." Honjuan looked at him and saw that it was Yongling, the military officer in charge of the troops. Honjuan was overjoyed and immediately ordered Yongling to lead 1,000 troops out of the city. After traveling about 50 miles, they saw dust rising in the distance, and Guan Yu's army had already arrived. Yongling brandished his spear and rode out to challenge them to battle. Yuan Chong flew into a rage, said nothing, and charged forward on horseback, swinging his sword directly at Yongling. Yongling met him with his spear. After 3 exchanges, Yuan Chong swung his sword, cutting Yongling down from his horse. He pursued the fleeing troops all the way to the city gates. Honjuan, hearing this, was greatly alarmed and ordered Guanzhong to ride out. Honjuan himself came to the city walls to watch. Guanzhong drew his sword, mounted his horse, and led 500 cavalry across the drawbridge. Yuan Chong saw an old general ride out and recognized him as Guanzhong. He arranged his 500 sword-wielding soldiers in a line, drew his sword, and asked, "Are you Guanzhong?" Zhong replied, "Since you know my name, how dare you invade my territory?" Yuan Chong said, "I have come to take your head." With that, the 2 horses clashed. After over 100 exchanges, neither side gained the upper hand. Honjuan feared for Guanzhong's safety and sounded the retreat. Guanzhong withdrew his troops into the city. Guan Yu also retreated, setting up camp 10 li away from the city. He thought to himself, the old general Guanzhong lives up to his reputation. After 100 exchanges, there was no flaw in his defense. Tomorrow, I must use the dragsword tactic to strike him from behind and win. The next morning after breakfast, he came again to challenge the city. Honjuan sat on the city walls and ordered Guanzhong to ride out. Guanzhong led several hundred riders across the drawbridge and engaged Yuan Chong in battle once more. After another 50 or 60 exchanges, neither side gained the upper hand, and both armies cheered. As the drumbeat grew urgent, Yuan Chong turned his horse and fled. Guanzhong gave chase. Just as Guan Yu was about to strike with his sword, he suddenly heard a loud noise behind him. Turning quickly, he saw that Guanzhong had been thrown from his horse and lay on the ground. Guan Yu turned his horse back, raised his sword with both hands, and shouted, "I will spare your life. Quickly get another horse and fight again." Guanzhong quickly grabbed the horse's hooves, leapt onto the horse, and galloped back into the city. Zhuan asked in surprise. Zhong said, "This horse hasn't been on the battlefield for a long time, so it made this mistake." Zhuan said, "Your arrows never miss their mark." "Why didn't you shoot him?" Zhong said. "Tomorrow, we'll fight again. I'll pretend to lose and lure him to the drawbridge, then shoot him." Zhuan gave Guanzhong the blue horse he was riding. Guanzhong bowed in gratitude and withdrew, pondering, "It's rare for Yuan Chong to be so honorable. He couldn't bear to kill me. so how could I bear to shoot him? But if I don't shoot, I fear I will disobey the general's orders." That night, he remained undecided. The next morning, word came that Yuan Chong had challenged them to battle. Zhong led his troops out of the city. Yuan Chong had fought Huang Zhong for 2 days without success and was growing increasingly impatient. He shook off his frustration and engaged Zhong in combat. After less than 30 exchanges, Zhong feigned defeat and Yuan Chong gave chase. Zhong, remembering the mercy shown to him the previous day, could not bring himself to shoot, so he held his sword and drew his bowstring, making a loud noise. Yuan Chong dodged quickly, but saw no arrow. Yuan Chong pursued again, and Zhong feigned another draw. Yuan Chong dodged again, but there was no arrow. He assumed Huang Zhong could not shoot and pursued confidently. As he neared the drawbridge, Huang Zhong drew his bow on the bridge, the string rang out, and the arrow struck the base of Yuan Chong's helmet plume. The troops ahead shouted in unison. Yuan Chong was startled, returned to camp with the arrow still lodged in his helmet, and only then realized that Huang Zhong possessed the skill to shoot an arrow through a willow tree from 100 paces away. Today, he had only shot at the helmet tassel, which was precisely to repay the mercy of not being killed yesterday. Yuan Chong led his troops in retreat. Huang Zhong returned to the city to see Han Zhuan, who immediately ordered his attendants to arrest Huang Zhong. Zhong cried out, "I am innocent." Zhuan flew into a rage and said, "I have watched you for 3 days, and you dare to deceive me. You did not fight fiercely the day before yesterday, so you must have ulterior motives. Yesterday, when your horse stumbled, he did not kill you, so you must have colluded with him. Today, you drew your bowstring twice in vain, and the third arrow only hit his helmet tassel. How is this not collusion between outsiders and insiders? If I do not execute you, it will surely become a future problem." He ordered the executioners to push him out of the city gate and execute him. The generals wanted to intercede, but Zhuan said, "Anyone who pleads for Huang Zhong's mercy is complicit." Just as they were about to raise their swords, suddenly a general charged in with his sword, killed the executioners, and rescued Huang Zhong, shouting, "Huang Hansheng as the protector of Changsha. Killing him is killing the people of Changsha." Han Zhuan is cruel and inhumane, disrespectful to the virtuous and arrogant toward scholars. Let us all execute him together. Those who wish to follow me, come now. The crowd looked at the man, whose face was as red as a plum, and whose eyes shone like stars. He was Wei Yan of Yong. After failing to catch Yu Zhuandi in Xiangyang, he had come to serve Han Zhuan. But Han Zhuan found him arrogant and lacking in manners, and refused to give him an important position, so he had been forced to stay here. On that day, he rescued Huang Zhong and urged the people to kill Han Zhuan. With a single call, hundreds followed him. Huang Zhong could not stop him. Wei Yin charged up the city walls, severed Han Zhuan in two with a single stroke, raised his head on a horse, led the people out of the city, and paid homage to Yuan Chong. Yuan Chong was overjoyed and entered the city. After pacifying the area, he invited Huang Zhong to meet him, but Huang Zhong claimed illness and did not appear. Yuan Chong immediately sent someone to invite Zhuanda and Kongming. Meanwhile, Zhuanda, after Yuan Chong had gone to take Changsha, urged Kongming to follow with troops to provide support. As they were traveling, a black flag suddenly turned upside down, and a crow flew from north to south, crying 3 times before departing. Zhuanda asked, "What does this portend?" Kongming immediately divined a lesson on horseback and said, "Changsha County has been captured, and another great general will be gained. The outcome will be clear afternoon." Shortly thereafter, a messenger arrived with news. General Quan has captured Changsha County, and the surrendered generals Sun Zhongmou and Wei Yan await your arrival." Zhuandi was overjoyed and entered Changsha. Guan Yu welcomed him into the hall and explained the matter of Wang Zhong. Zhuandi personally visited Wang Zhong's home to invite him, and Wang finally surrendered, requesting that the remains of Han Zhuan be buried east of Changsha. A later poet praised Wang Zhong with these verses: "The general's spirit rivals the heavens, yet even with white hair, he remains trapped in Hainan until death. He remains loyal without complaint, and even as he surrenders, he still feels ashamed. His sword shines like snow, showcasing his bravery, and his iron horses gallop in the wind, recalling the heat of battle. His timeless fame will fade, forever shining alongside the lone moon over Xiongtan." Zhuandi treated Wang Zhong with great kindness. Yun Chong brought Wei Yan to see him, and Ming ordered the executioners to push him down and behead him. Zhuandi was startled and asked Ming, "Wei Yan is a man who has done meritorious service and committed no crime. Why does the military advisor wish to kill him?" Ming replied, "To accept one's salary and then kill one's master is disloyalty. To occupy one's land and then surrender, it is injustice. I observe that Wei Yan has a rebellious bone at the back of his head. He will inevitably rebel in the future, so I must execute him first to eliminate the root of the trouble." Zhuandi said, "If you execute this man, those who have surrendered may feel insecure. I implore the military advisor to spare him." Ming pointed at Wei Yan and said, "I now spare your life. You must remain loyal to your lord and not harbor any treacherous thoughts. If you do, I will take your head, no matter what." Wei Yan bowed repeatedly and withdrew. Wang Zhong recommended Yu Biao's nephew Yu Pan, who was currently residing idly in Yu County, and Zhuandi brought him back to govern Changsha County. With the 4 counties pacified, Zhuandi returned to Jingju with his army, renaming Yujianku to Gonggan. From then on, the region was abundant in wealth and talent, and generals were stationed at strategic passes. Meanwhile, Zhou Yu returned to Jiaxing to convalesce, ordering An Ning to guard Bailing County and Ling Tong to guard Hanyang County, with warships deployed at both locations to await further orders. Cheng Pu led the remaining troops to Hefei County. It so happened that Sun Quan, since the Battle of Chibi, had been stationed at Hefei, engaging in over a dozen battles with Cao Cao's forces, none of which had decided the outcome. He dared not encamp near the city walls, instead stationing his troops 50 li away. Upon hearing of Cheng Pu's arrival, Sun Quan was overjoyed and personally went out to greet the troops. Someone reported that Lu Zijing had arrived first, so Sun Quan dismounted and waited for him. Lu Su hurriedly dismounted and paid his respects. The other generals were greatly surprised to see Sun Quan treat Lu Su in such a manner. Sun Quan invited Lu Su to mount his horse, and they rode side by side. He whispered to him, "Did my dismounting to greet you sufficiently honor you?" Lu Su replied, "Not yet." Sun Quan asked, "Then what would it take to truly honor you?" Lu Su replied, "I hope your excellency's might and virtue will spread across the 4 seas, unify the 9 provinces, and establish an imperial dynasty, so that my name may be recorded in history. Only then will I be truly honored." Sun Quan clapped his hands and laughed heartily. They then entered the tent together, where a grand banquet was held to reward the soldiers and discuss strategies to break through Hefei's defenses. Suddenly, a messenger arrived with a challenge from Zhong Liao. Sun Quan opened the letter and read it, then flew into a rage, saying, "Zhong Liao dares to insult me so greatly." Upon hearing that Cheng Pu's army was approaching, he deliberately sent someone to challenge us. "Tomorrow, I will not use the new troops to fight the enemy. Let me show you a great battle." He issued orders for the army to depart at the 5th watch of the night, marching toward Hefei. Around dawn, the army reached halfway when Cao Cao's troops arrived. Both sides formed their battle formations. Sun Quan, clad in golden armor and helmet, rode out on horseback. On his left was Song Qian, and on his right was Jia Hua, both wielding halberds, guarding him on either side. After 3 beats of the drum, the gates of Cao Cao's army opened, and 3 generals, fully armed and equipped, stood before the ranks, Zhong Liao in the center, Li Dian on the left, and Lei Jin on the right. Zhong Liao charged forward on his horse, challenging Sun Quan to a decisive battle. Sun Quan gripped his spear, ready to fight, but a general from the ranks suddenly emerged on his horse, spear in hand. It was Taishi Ci. Zhong Liao swung his sword to meet him. The 2 generals fought for 70 or 80 exchanges, with neither gaining the upper hand. On Cao Cao's side, Li Dian said to Lei Jin, "The man in the golden helmet across from us is Sun Quan. If we capture Sun Quan, it will be enough to avenge the 830,000 troops." Before he had finished speaking, Lei Jin charged forward on his horse, sword in hand, striking diagonally towards Sun Quan like a flash of lightning. He flew forward and swung his sword. Song Qian and Jia Hua quickly raised their halberds to block the attack. The sword swung, and both spears were severed. Only the spear shafts remained, striking the horse's head. Lei Jin turned his horse around, and Song Qian's soldiers rushed forward with their spears. Li Dian knocked an arrow and aimed it at Song Qian's heart, shooting him down from his horse. Taishi Ci saw someone fall from his horse behind him, abandoned Zhong Liao, and returned to his own ranks. Zhong Liao took advantage of the situation to charge forward, causing the Wu troops to panic and scatter in all directions. Zhong Liao spotted Sun Quan and rushed toward him on horseback. Just as he was about to catch up, a force emerged from the side, led by the General Cheng Piyu, who engaged in a fierce battle and rescued Sun Quan. Zhong Liao withdrew his troops and returned to Hefei. Cheng Piyu escorted Sun Quan back to the main camp, and the defeated troops gradually returned to their camps. Sun Quan, upon seeing that Song Qian had been killed, burst into tears. Zhong Hong, the chief of staff, said, "Your Excellency relies on your youthful vigor and underestimates the enemy, causing the entire army to lose heart. Even if you were to slay generals and capture flags, shaking the battlefield with your might, that is the role of a subordinate general, not something befitting your Excellency. I urge you to temper the bravery of Ben and adopt the strategies of a king or a warlord. Moreover, Song Qian's death under the enemy's arrows was all due to your underestimation of the enemy. From now on, you must take care of yourself." Sun Quan said, "It is my fault. I will change from now on." Shortly after, Taishi Ci entered the tent and said, "There is a man under my command named Zai Ding, who is the brother of Zhong Liao's stable hand. The stable hand was punished and harbored a grudge. Tonight, he sent someone to report that he would set a fire as a signal to assassinate Zhong Liao and avenge Song Qian's death. I request to lead troops as external support." Sun Quan asked, "Where's Zai Ding?" Taishi Ci replied, "He has already infiltrated Hefei city. I request 5,000 troops to go." Zhu Jin said, "Zhong Liao is cunning. He may have made preparations. We must not act rashly." Taishi Ci insisted on going. Sun Quan, deeply saddened by Song Qian's death, urgently sought revenge, and thus ordered Taishi Ci to lead 5,000 troops as external support. It so happened that Zai Ding was a fellow villager of Taishi Ci. On that day, he mingled among the troops and entered Hefei city, where he found the stable hand. The two discussed their plan. Zai Ding said, I have already sent word to General Taishi Ci. He will come to assist us tonight. How will you carry out your plan? The stable hand replied, This area is far from the main camp, and we cannot advance quickly at night. We will set fire to the haystack, and you will go to the front to incite rebellion. When the soldiers in the city are in chaos, we will assassinate Zhang Liao, and the remaining troops will flee on their own. Jading said, This plan is brilliant. That night, Zhang Liao returned victorious to the city, rewarded the troops, and issued an order not to remove their armor or sleep. His attendant said, Today we achieved a complete victory, and the Wu troops have retreated far away. Why doesn't the general remove his armor and rest? Zhang Liao said, No, the way of a general is, do not rejoice in victory, do not grieve in defeat. If the Wu troops assume we are unprepared and launch a surprise attack, how will we respond? Tonight's defenses must be even more vigilant than usual. Before he had finished speaking, fires broke out in the rear camp, and cries of rebellion erupted, with messengers arriving in droves. Zhang Liao emerged from his tent, mounted his horse, and summoned a dozen, also personal guards, to stand in the path. His attendant said, The cries are urgent, we should go investigate. Liao replied, How could an entire city rebel? These are rebels stirring up panic among the soldiers. Anyone causing chaos will be executed first. Before long, Li Dian arrived with a captured rebel. After questioning him, Liao had him executed on the spot. Suddenly, the sound of drums and gongs echoed outside the city gates, accompanied by loud cries. Liao said, This is the Wu army's external support. We can use their plan against them. He immediately ordered someone to set a fire inside the city gates. Everyone shouted in rebellion, Open the city gates wide, and lowered the drawbridge. Taishi Ci saw the city gates wide open and thought there was an internal uprising. He charged forward on horseback with his spear raised. A cannon blast sounded from the city walls and arrows rained down. Taishi Ci retreated urgently, struck by several arrows. Behind them, Li Dian and Li Jin charged out, killing most of the Wu troops and pursuing them all the way to the camp. Lu Zun and Dongxi charged out and rescued Taishi Ci. The cow troops retreated. Sun Quan was even more saddened to see Taishi Ci's serious injuries. Zhang Zhao urged Sun Quan to cease hostilities. Sun Quan agreed, and the troops withdrew to their ships, returning to Nanjing. By the time the troops were settled, Taishi Ci's condition had worsened. Sun Quan sent Zhang Zhao and others to inquire about his health. Taishi Ci cried out, A true man born in turbulent times should wield a 3-foot sword to achieve unparalleled feats. Now that my aspirations remain unfulfilled, how can I bear to die? With these words, he passed away at the age of 41. A later poet praised him with these verses, dedicated to loyalty and filial piety, Taishi Ci of Donglai. His name resounded far and wide. His bow and horse shook the mighty army. On the day he repaid his debt of gratitude in Beihai, at the fierce battle of Shenting. At the end of his life, he spoke of his grand ambitions. Throughout the ages, people have sighed in admiration. Sun Quan heard of Taishi Ci's death and mourned him deeply, ordering a lavish funeral at the foot of Beigu Mountain in Nanjing and raising his son, Taishi Heng, in his mansion. Meanwhile, Zhuandi was organizing his troops in Jingju when he heard that Sun Quan had suffered a defeat at Hefei and had returned to Nanjing. He discussed the matter with Ming. Ming said, Last night, I observed the stars and saw one fall from the northwest. This must mean that a member of the imperial family will die. Just as he spoke, a report came that Prince Liu Che had died of illness. Upon hearing this, Zhuandi wept bitterly. Ming comforted him, saying, Life and death are predestined. Your Excellency should not grieve, lest it harm your health. Let us attend to the important matters. Send someone immediately to defend the city and arrange the funeral. Zhuandi asked, who should go? Kongming replied, only Yuan Chong is suitable. He immediately ordered Yuan Chong to go to Xiangyang to take charge of the defenses. Zhuandi asked, now that Liu Che has died, the Eastern Wu will surely come to demand Jingju. How shall we respond? Kongming replied, if anyone comes, I shall have words to respond. After half a month, it was reported that Lu Su of the Eastern Wu had come specially to mourn. As the saying goes, first, the strategy is arranged. Now, we await the envoy from the Eastern Wu. How will Kongming respond? We shall see in the next chapter.
It is said that when Zhu Jiong heard that Lu Su had arrived, he and Zhuandi went out of the city to greet him. When they received the official letter, they met. Su said, upon hearing the order for my nephew to pass away, my lord has specially sent me with a simple gift to pay his respects. Commander Zhou repeatedly expressed his greetings to Uncle Liu and Mr. Juge. Zhuandi and Kongming rose to express their gratitude, accepted the gifts and offered wine to each other. Su said, the former uncle of the emperor said, if the young master is not here, I will return to Jingju. Now that the young master has passed away, I will surely see his return. I don't know when the delivery can be made. Zhuandi said, sir, let's drink and discuss a matter. Su Kong drank several cups, and then began to ask. Before Zhuandi could reply, Kongming changed his expression and said, Zijing is so unreasonable that he needs people to speak up. Emperor Gao of the Ming dynasty rose up in rebellion by slaying a snake, laying the foundation and establishing a business that has been passed down to this day. Unfortunately, villains rose up one after another, each occupying their own territory. Surely, the will of heaven will return and the orthodoxy will be restored. My master is the descendant of Prince Jing of Zhongshan, the great-grandson of Emperor Zhao Jing, and the uncle of the current emperor. How could he not split the land? Besides, Liu Jingsheng is my lord's elder brother. As a younger brother, carrying on his elder brother's legacy, what misfortunes could there be? Your lord is the son of a minor official in Qiantong, and has never contributed any merit to the imperial court. Now, relying on its power, it occupies 6 prefectures and 81 states. Still lacking in self-greed, it intends to annex the Han territory. In the Liu family's empire, my lord's surname Liu has no share, but your lord's surname Sun is insisting on competing. Moreover, in the Battle of Red Cliffs, our lord was very hardworking. All the generals fought with their lives. How could it be just the strength of your Eastern Wu? If it weren't for my borrowing of the southeast wind, how could Zhou Lang have achieved half of his success? When Jiangmen fell, not to mention that the Tuqiao were placed in the Tunk Palace, even though the Gong family was small, it could not be saved. When my master does not immediately agree, since Zijing is a man of great wisdom, there is no need to elaborate further. How could one not pay such close attention?
A few words left Liu Zijing speechless. After a moment, he said, what Kongming says may well be true. But alas, it is most inconvenient for Lu Su. Kongming asked, what is inconvenient about it? Su replied, when the imperial uncle was in distress at Dangyang, it was I who brought Kongming across the river to meet our lord. Later, when Zhou Gongjin wanted to launch a campaign to seize Jingju, it was I who stopped him. And when it was agreed that Jingju would be returned after the prince's death, it was I who took responsibility. Now, if I go back on my word, how can I explain this to Lu Su? Our lord and Zhou Gongjin will surely hold me accountable. I would die without regret, but I fear it will provoke the Eastern Wu, leading to war, and the emperor will not be able to sit securely in Jingju, becoming a laughingstock to the world. Ming said, Cao Cao commands 1,000,000 troops, using the emperor as his banner. Yet I do not fear him. How could I fear Zhou Lang, a mere child? If you fear, it will look bad for you. I advise my lord to draw up a written agreement, temporarily borrowing Jingju as collateral. Once my lord has secured other cities, we will return it to Dongwu. What do you think of this proposal? Su asked. Where does Ming plan to seize to return Jingju to me? Ming replied, the Central Plains are too urgent to be conquered. Liu Zhong of Sichuan is weak and incompetent, and my lord plans to seize it. Once we have conquered Sichuan, we will return it then. Su had no choice but to agree. Zhuandi personally wrote the document and signed it. The guarantor, Juge Ming, also signed it. Ming said, I am a man of the imperial uncle's domain. How can I guarantee for myself? Please have Mr. Zijing also sign it, so it will look good when you report back to the Wu, Su said. I know the imperial uncle is a man of righteousness and will not betray us. He then signed his name and received the document. After the banquet, he took his leave. Zhuandi and Ming escorted him to the boat. Ming admonished him, when you return to see the Wu, speak kindly and do not harbor any illusions. If he does not approve my document, I will turn my back on him and seize all 81 states. Now, we only seek harmony between the two sides. Do not let Cao Cao mock us. Suji bid farewell and returned by boat, first going to Chasing County to see Zhou Yu. Zhou Yu asked, how did your campaign to seize Jingju go? Suji replied, I have the documents here. He presented them to Zhou Yu, who stamped his foot and exclaimed, You've fallen into Zhuge Liang's trap. They claim to be borrowing the land, but in reality, they're just trying to keep it. He claims he will return it after taking Sichuan. But when will he take Sichuan? If he cannot take Sichuan in 10 years, will he not return it for 10 years? Such a document is useless. How could you vouch for him? If he does not return it, you will be implicated, and the Lord will hold you accountable. What then? Su heard this and was speechless for a moment, then said, I fear Zhuandi will not betray me, you said. Zijing is an honest man. Liu Bei is a cunning tyrant, and Zhuge Liang is a crafty schemer. They are not like you in heart. Su asked, if that is the case, what should we do? You said, Zijing, you are my benefactor. Remember the kindness you showed me when you pointed out the granary. How could I not help you? Stay calm for a few days. Once the spies from the north return, we will have other plans. Lu Su paced restlessly. After a few days, the spies reported, in Jingju City, they are raising banners to do good deeds, building new graves outside the city, and the soldiers are all wearing mourning attire. You asked in surprise, who has passed away? The spies replied. Yu Zhuanda has lost his wife Gan Fu Ren, and they are preparing for the funeral. You said to Lu Su, my plan is complete. Liu Bei will surrender without a fight, and Jingju will be ours for the taking. Lu Su asked, what is your plan? You replied, Liu Bei has lost his wife, and will surely remarry. The Lord has a younger sister who is extremely brave and fierce, with hundreds of maidservants. She always carries a sword, and her room is filled with weapons, even more than a man would have. I will now write to the Lord, sending someone to Jingju as a matchmaker to propose that Liu Bei marry into the family. Once he is Lord to Nanjing, his wife will be unable to follow him, and he will be imprisoned. Then we will send someone to demand Jingju in exchange for Liu Bei. Once he has handed over the city of Jingju, I have other plans. As for you, Zijing, you will be safe." Lu Su bowed in gratitude. Zhou Yu wrote a letter and selected a fast ship to send Lu Su to Nanjing to see Sun Quan. He first mentioned the matter of borrowing Jingju and presented the documents. Quan said, "How foolish of you. What use are such documents?" Su said, "Commander Zhou has a letter here, saying that this plan will allow us to obtain Jingju." After reading it, Sun Quan nodded in silent delight, pondering who could be sent. Suddenly he realized, only Le Fan will do. He summoned Le Fan and said, "I have heard that Liu Zhuande has lost his wife. I have a younger sister whom I wish to marry to Liu Zhuande as a son-in-law, to form an eternal alliance, unite our efforts to defeat Cao Cao, and support the Han dynasty. Only you, Le Fan, can serve as the matchmaker. I implore you to go to Jingju and speak on my behalf." Fan accepted the mission, immediately prepared the ships, took several attendants, and set off for Jingju. Meanwhile, Zhuande had been deeply troubled day and night since the death of Gan Lady. One day, while chatting idly with Ming, a messenger reported that Le Fan had arrived from Dongwu. Ming smiled and said, "This is Zhou Yu's plan, surely concerning Jingju. I will listen secretly behind the screen. Whatever is discussed, the Lord should agree to it. Have the guests stay at the inn and make other arrangements for discussion." Zhuande ordered Le Fan to be invited in. After the formalities were completed, and they had seated themselves, Zhuande asked, "Ziheng, you must have something to say." Fan replied, "I recently heard that the royal uncle has lost his wife. I have a suitable match, so I dare to come forward as a matchmaker. What is your opinion on this matter?" Zhuande said, "Losing my wife in middle age is a great misfortune. The grief is still fresh. How can I bear to discuss marriage so soon?" Fan said, "A man without a wife is like a house without a beam. How can one abandon human relationships midway? My lord, the Prince of Wu, has a younger sister who is both beautiful and virtuous, suitable to be your wife. If the two families were to form an alliance, the Cao would dare not look upon the southeast with contempt. This matter benefits both the family and the nation. Please do not doubt it. Your royal uncle, however, my mother, Lady Wu, loves her youngest daughter dearly and would not agree to her marrying far away. She insists that your royal uncle come to Dongwu for the wedding." Zhuande asked, "Does the Lord of Wu know about this?" Fan replied, "How dare I speak of this without first informing the Lord of Wu?" Zhuande said, "I am already in my 50s, with grey hair. The Lord of Wu's younger sister is still in her prime. I fear we are not a suitable match," Fan said. The Lord of Wu's younger sister, though a woman, has the resolve of a man.
It is said that when Zhu Jiong heard that Lu Su had arrived, he and Zhuande went out of the city to greet him. When they received the official letter, they met. Su said, "Upon hearing the order for my nephew to pass away, my lord has specially sent me with a simple gift to pay his respects." Commander Zhou repeatedly expressed his greetings to Uncle Liu and Mr. Zhuge. Zhuande and Ming rose to express their gratitude, accepted the gifts and offered wine to each other. Su said, "The former uncle of the emperor said, if the young master is not here, I will return to Jingju. Now that the young master has passed away, I will surely see his return. I don't know when the delivery can be made." Zhuande said, "Sir, let's drink and discuss a matter." Su Kong drank several cups, and then began to ask. Before Zhuande could reply, Ming changed his expression and said, "Zijing is so unreasonable that he needs people to speak up. Emperor Gao of the Ming dynasty, rose up in rebellion by slaying a snake, laying the foundation and establishing a business that has been passed down to this day. Unfortunately, villains rose up one after another, each occupying their own territory. Surely, the will of heaven will return and the orthodoxy will be restored. My master is the descendant of Prince Jing of Zhongshan, the great-grandson of Emperor Zhao Jing, and the uncle of the current emperor. How could he not split the land? Besides, Liu Jingsheng is my lord's elder brother. As a younger brother, carrying on his elder brother's legacy, what misfortunes could there be? Your lord is the son of a minor official in Qiantong, and has never contributed any merit to the imperial court. Now, relying on its power, it occupies 6 prefectures and 81 states. Still lacking in self-greed, it intends to annex the Han territory. In the Liu family's empire, my lord's surname Yu has no share, but your lord's surname Sun is insisting on competing. Moreover, in the Battle of Red Cliffs, our lord was very hardworking. All the generals fought with their lives. How could it be just the strength of your eastern Wu? If it weren't for my borrowing of the southeast wind, how could Zhou Lang have achieved half of his success? When Jiangmen fell, not to mention that the Tuqiao were placed in the Tunk Palace, even though the Gong family was small, it could not be saved. When my master does not immediately agree, since Xi Jing is a man of great wisdom, there is no need to elaborate further. How could one not pay such close attention?
He summoned 500 soldiers who were traveling with him, gave them specific instructions, and the soldiers departed after receiving their orders. He then instructed Zhuandi to go and meet with Qiao Golao first. Qiao Golao was the father of the 2 Qiao sisters and resided in Nanjing. Zhuandi brought a sheep and some wine with him and went to pay his respects, discussing the matter of marrying the lady with Lafan as the matchmaker. The 500 accompanying soldiers, all dressed in red and adorned with decorations, entered Nanjing to purchase necessary items. It was widely known throughout the city that Zhuandi had come to marry into the Eastern Wu Kingdom. Sun Quan, upon learning that Zhuandi had arrived, instructed Lafan to entertain him and arranged for him to stay at the guest house. Upon meeting Zhuandi, Qiao Golao went to see Empress Wu to congratulate her. The Empress asked, "What is the cause for celebration?" Qiao Golao replied, "Your daughter has been betrothed to Liu Zhuandi as his wife. Now that Zhuandi has arrived, why are you keeping this a secret?" The Empress exclaimed in surprise, "I was unaware of this matter." She immediately sent someone to summon Sun Quan to inquire about the truth, while also dispatching others to investigate within the city. Everyone reported back, "It is indeed true. The son-in-law is already staying at the guest house, and the 500 soldiers who accompanied him all in the city buying pigs, sheep, and fruits to prepare for the wedding. The matchmaker for the bride's family is Lafan, and the matchmaker for the groom's family is Sun Shan, both of whom are waiting at the guest house." Empress Dowager Sun was startled. A short while later, Sun Quan entered the inner hall to see his mother. Empress Dowager Sun beat her chest and wept. Sun Quan asked, "Why are you so distressed, mother?" The Empress Dowager replied, "You treat me as if I were nothing. When my sister was on her deathbed, what instructions did she give you?" Sun Quan was startled and said, "Mother, please speak plainly. Why are you so upset?" The Empress Dowager said, "Men must marry and women must wed. It is the natural order of things. As your mother, you should have consulted me first. How could you marry Liu Zhuandi to me without telling me? My daughter is mine." Sun Quan was startled and asked, "Where did you hear this?" The Empress Dowager said, If you don't want others to know, don't do it. Every citizen in the city knows about it. How could you hide it from me? Xiao Golao said, I have known about this for many days. I have come today to congratulate you, Sun Quan said. No, this is Zhou Yu's plan. He wants to take Jingzhou, so he used this as an excuse to lure Liu Bei here and imprison him, demanding that he hand over Jingzhou in exchange. If he refuses, Liu Bei will be executed first. This is a strategy, not my true intention. The Empress Dowager flew into a rage and scolded Zhou Yu, saying, You are the Grand Marshal of the 6 provinces and 81 states, yet you have no proper strategy to capture Jingzhou. Instead, you use my daughter as a pawn in a beauty plot. If Liu Bei is killed, my daughter will become a widow. And how can I arrange another marriage for her tomorrow? You will ruin my daughter's life. How dare you? Xiao Golao said. If we use this scheme, even if we obtain Jingzhou, we will be mocked by the entire world. How can this be done? Sun Quan remained silent. The Empress Dowager continued to scold Zhou Yu. Xiao Golao advised, since matters have come to this, Yu Huangshu is a relative of the Han dynasty. It would be better to truly marry him to your daughter to avoid embarrassment, Sun Quan said. Their ages may not be suitable. Xiao Golao said, Liu Huangshu is a hero of our time. If we marry him to our daughter, it will not dishonor your sister. Empress Dowager said, I have never met Liu Huangshu. Let us meet at the Ganlu temple tomorrow. If he does not meet my expectations, you may do as you please. If he does meet my expectations, I will marry my daughter to him. Sun Quan was a deeply filial son. Seeing his mother speak thus, he immediately agreed. He went out to summon Le Fan and instructed him to prepare a banquet at the abbot's quarters of the Ganlu temple the next day. As the Empress Dowager wished to meet Liu Bei, Le Fan said, Why not have Jia Hua lead 300 armed guards to hide in the side corridors? If the Empress Dowager is displeased, at a signal, they will emerge from both sides and apprehend him. Sun Quan then summoned Jia Hua and instructed him to prepare in advance, keeping an eye on the Empress Dowager's movements. Meanwhile, Xiao Golao took his leave of the Empress Dowager and sent someone to inform Zhuandi, saying, Tomorrow, the Wu and the Empress Dowager wish to meet you personally. Be sure to take it seriously. Zhuandi discussed the matter with Sun Qian and Zhao Yun. Zhao Yun said, Tomorrow's gathering holds more danger than good fortune. I will lead 500 soldiers to provide protection. The next day, Wu Guotai and Xiao Golao first sat down in the abbot's quarters of Ganlu Temple. Sun Quan led a group of strategists, and they all arrived soon. However, he instructed Lu Fan to come to the inn to invite Zhuanda. Zhuanda, wearing fine armor inside and a brocade robe outside, followed closely with a man carrying a sword on his back, and then mounted his horse to throw himself at Ganlu Temple. Zhao Yun was fully equipped with a military belt and led 500 troops to follow. He dismounted in front of the temple and met Sun Quan first. Quan Zhuandi had an extraordinary appearance, but he felt a sense of fear in his heart. After the two had finished their greeting, they went into the abbot to see the crown prince. When Guotai saw Zhuanda, he was overjoyed and said to Xiao Golao, You are truly my son-in-law, Guolao said. Zhuanda has the form of dragons and phoenixes, and the appearance of the sky and the sun. He also bestows benevolence and virtue throughout the world. It is truly a blessing for the crown prince to have such a fine son-in-law. Zhuandi thanked him, and they had a banquet together in the abbot's house. After a short while, Zilong entered with a sword and stood beside Zhuanda. The grand prince asked, Who is this?
Zhuanda replied. It's Zhao Zilong of Changshan, the Grand Emperor said. Could it be that the one holding a dough in Changban, Dangyang? Zhuanda said. Yes, the Grand Emperor said. You are a true general, so he bestowed wine upon him. Zhao Yun said to Zhuanda. But I was just inspecting under the corridor and saw that there were swordsmiths lurking in the room. There must be no good intentions. You can inform Gotai. Zhuanda knelt before the crown prince's seat and wept, saying, If you want to kill Liu Bei, please execute him right now. The Grand Tutor said. Why did you say such a thing? Zhuanda said. There are swordsmen and axes lurking in the corridor. Why not kill them? The Crown Prince was furious and scolded Sun Quan, saying, Now that Zhuanda is my son-in-law, he's my child. Why do you lie with your axe and knife under the corridor? Quan Tui was unaware and called Lu Fan to ask him. Fan Tui Jia, Hua Guo type. Jia, Hua to scold him. But Hua remained silent. The Crown Prince ordered his execution. Zhuanda said, If a great general is executed, it will be detrimental to your own interests, and it will be difficult for you to stay by your side for long. Jiao Golao also tried to persuade him. Guo Taifeng ordered Jia Hua to leave. All the axes and knives covered their heads and fled in panic. Before Zhuanda changed his clothes and left the hall, he saw a stone block below the courtyard. Zhuanda drew the sword carried by the servant and looked up to the sky to wish. If Liu Bei can recapture Jingzhou and achieve the cause of being a king and a hegemon, he will strike a stone with one sword and split it into 2 pieces. If I die here, even a sword cannot cut through a stone. Having said that, he raised his hand, his sword fell, and flames flew out, cutting the stone into 2 pieces. Sun Quan saw this from behind and asked, Why does Duke Zhuanda hate this stone? Zhuanda said, I am nearly 50 years old and still unable to eliminate the traitors for the country. I often feel self-reproach. Now, Mengguo Taijiao has become his son-in-law. This is a once-in-a-lifetime encounter. Just now, I asked the heavens for a divination, as if I were breaking Cao Cao and reviving the Han dynasty. I cut off this stone. It's indeed so now. Quan thought to himself, could it be that Liu Bei is using such words to deceive me? He drew his sword and said to Zhuanda, I also ask the heavens to buy a divination. If the cow bandits are defeated, this stone will also be broken. But he secretly declared, if we regain Jingzhou and bring prosperity to the eastern Wu, we will cut the stone in half. With a rise of the hand and a fall of the sword, even a huge rock splits open. To this day, the cross-patterned hate stone still exists. Later generations, upon seeing this scenic spot, composed a poem in praise, saying, when the sword falls, the rocks on the mountain break. When the golden ring rings, flames rise. The prosperity of both dynasties is the result of the heavens. From then on, the balance of heaven and earth was formed. The two threw down their swords and sat down together. After several rounds of drinking, Sun Gan looked at Zhuanda. Zhuanda said, I'm too tired to drink. I'll take my leave. Sun Quan saw him off to the temple. The two stood side by side, enjoying the view of the country and the mountains. Zhuanda said, this is the #1 kingdom in the world. To this day, the plaque of Ganlu Temple reads, the first kingdom in the world. Later generations wrote a poem praising, after the rain in the rivers and mountains, the green snails are embraced. In the realm of no worries, joy is the greatest, where the heroes of the past gazed. The cliff still stands firm against the storm. When the two of them visited together, the river wind was mighty, the surging waves rolled snow, and the white waves lifted the sky. Suddenly, a small boat was seen on the water, gliding on the river surface as if it were on flat ground. Zhuanda sighed and said, The saying people in the south ride boats, while those in the north ride horses, is indeed true. Sun Quan, upon hearing this, thought to himself, Liu Bei's words are teasing me. I'm not used to riding a horse. He then ordered him to lead the horses on both sides, leapt onto them, and galloped down the mountain at full speed. He then spurred them up to the ridge, and joked with Zhuanda. Camp people from the south ride horses. Upon hearing this, Zhuanda lifted his robe, leapt onto the horseback, flew down the mountain, and galloped up again. The two immediately went up the hillside, whipping and laughing loudly. This place is still called Jumopo to this day. Later generations wrote a poem that goes, "The galloping steed is full of vigor." The two of them ride side by side, gazing at the mountains and rivers. The Eastern Wu and Western Shu became kings and hegemon, and the ancient Mapo still exists. That day, the two rode back side by side. The people of Nanksu all congratulated. Zhuanda returned to the inn, and discussed with Sun Gan. Gan said, "The Lord merely pleading Xiao Golao to end their marriage early to avoid having another life." The next day, Zhuanda dismounted again in front of the old house of Xiaoguo. The elder of the state received him. After the ceremony was over, and the tea was over, Zhuanda reported, "There are many people in Zhongzhou who want to harm Liu Bei. I'm afraid they won't be able to stay for long," the old master said. "The virtuous mind broadens the heart. I am the governor of the state, and order you to support me." Zhuanda thanked him, or returned by himself. Xiao Golao went to see the crown prince and said that Zhuanda was afraid of being murdered and urgently wanted to return. The crown prince was furious and said, "My son-in-law, who dares to harm him?" He was immediately instructed to move into the academy for temporary residence and choose a date for their wedding. Zhuanda, upon entering the palace, reported to the crown prince, "I'm only afraid that Zhao Yun will find it inconvenient outside, and his soldiers will have no one to restrain them." All the Gotai sect members moved into the mansion to rest, and did not stay in the inn, to avoid any trouble. Zhuanda was secretly delighted. Within a few days, a grand banquet was held and Lady Sun married Zhuanda. When the guests dispersed in the evening, two rows of red torches led Zhuanda into the room. Under the light, only a cluster of spears and knives could be seen. The maidservants all stood by each other with swords in hand. Udio placeholder 0 Zhuandi's soul is not possessed. It was indeed startled to see the maidservant standing with a sword in hand. I suspected that the Eastern Wu had set up an ambush. After all, what is the reason? Let's take a look at the following breakdown.
you.